Hi there. Welcome to another doodle session. Can you believe it? It's already episode 7, and today we are exploring the topic, the cocktail of mercy and grace. Let's get into it. Have you ever been in a situation where you are suffering from the consequences of your choices in the past? Bad choices, of course, with the guilt that marinates that feeling. You are continually reminded that you could have chosen differently, but somehow you did not. And as a result, you and in some cases other people are suffering for that wrong choice. Any witnesses in the house? So, how did you feel eventually when you were truly forgiving? Those words, I forgive you, suddenly appeared to mean so much more than words. It is interesting to see how the crushing weight of guilt suddenly dissipates when mercy and grace show up. Let's start from the top. If I may ask, from your own experience, how would you define the words mercy and grace? Let me try. Now, mercy is a favor or an act of kindness. It is usually the prerogative of the giver, the benefits and meets a need of the receiver. On the other hand, grace qualifies this favor as unmerited. Both attest to the character of the giver, but also highlights the state of the receiver in dire need, as we see in the Psalter's case. Have you noticed something about these guys, the psalmists, and how they interacted with God? There was something very special about how they related with God. For them, it was beyond the communal worship. It was very personal. Whenever the going was bad, they always seemed to fall back on their personal experiences with God and how God made manifest himself. For instance, in Psalms 136, the psalmist recounts a log of how he and his lineage walked with God and the experience of God's magnificence and faithfulness, especially in adversity, for which he is convinced that indeed God's mercies endure forever. Now, this conviction in God's enduring mercy, a direct consequence of a log of his personal experiences and that of his lineage, becomes the core of his faith in the present, expressed in worship regardless of the details of his circumstances. Again, in Psalms 51, David had just conspired and killed the innocent and faithful Uriah after sleeping with his beautiful wife Bathsheba. Savage. And the prophet Nathan had just rebuked him and called him out. If you ask me, that was twisted. Now you'll think that was a lost case, right? Now, rebuked, guilty as charged, overwhelmed by his guilt, yet David remembers the character of God. My guess, from his personal experience of God and that of his lineage, he remembers that God is compassionate and loving, and that God never despises a broken spirit and a contrite heart. In this understanding of the character of God, David finds courage to yet approach the throne of grace, where he finds mercy and grace. There is yet another example in Psalm 130. Now, the psalmist here, in acknowledgement of the fact that his affliction and that of his people was a direct consequence of their sins, seeks God for forgiveness. I'm sure we can all relate to that. But what could have given him the courage to seek the same God whom he had offended, and the nerve to wait on God confidently in eager anticipation of God's intervention? Now, this is not just a show of optimism. It is a personal confidence in the reliability of the Word of God. And why is that important? Well, again, because it reveals the character of God. What to remember here thus far. The psalmist is reminded that God is not angry by nature. If he ever gets angry, it is not to wound or to destroy. It is to heal and to save. So, in understanding of the person and character of God, though unworthy, having messed up, the psalmist finds the courage to seek the Lord and will wait on him in earnest anticipation, knowing that the Lord our God is faithful and will honor his words. It is this readiness to forgive sins and not to punish them that inspires reverence for God. Genuine worship is therefore built on the admiration of God's character of love, not on the fear of punishment. And finally, in Psalms 113 and 123, the same truth is reiterated. Have you ever taken some time to just observe nature, creation, or better still, watch documentaries that explore nature, particularly the galaxies? It is a marvel to see the degree of sophistication and yet organization. 6,000 plus years later, even our best of minds, scientists, still do not fully understand it. How humbling it is to know that this God who seeks a relationship with us today is still the same God who created all these things to the very details and have sustained them by the power of his words. Amazing. He is the royalty of the universe. All things attend to him. Incredibly awesome, yet interested in the boring details of our lives enough to give up his place and the adoration of his angels just to grace us with his presence for 33 years. A journey that culminated in a torturous and humiliating death, just so that we can have a second chance at life. Now, if this does not spark gratitude expressed in worship, I'm not sure what else will. It is absolutely shocking to know that we have the affection, but more importantly, the audience of the royalty of the universe without protocols. But we have little or no interest in spending time with him. Everything and everyone else get a bit of our time. Even our daily gadget screen time ranges from 3 to 5 hours plus. Your iPhone settings can confirm that. Yet, it is a struggle to spare 10 to 30 minutes with him daily. Horrible. A wise man once told me, when the king is a relative, chances are familiarity often tends to diminish his royalty and consequently deprives one of privileges that could have been his or hers. May we not take for granted the privilege of spending time with God in praise and reading his word, that we may also gather enough personal experiences that will sustain us in the rainy days, like the psalmist. In conclusion, here are your Sabbath takeaways from the psalmist. 1. These guys took God very personal. Each one pursued a personal experience-filled relationship with God beyond the corporate worship. And through these experiences, they understood the person and character of God. 2. In their understanding of the person and character of God, they could freely and honestly engage God in conversations with his work. 3. Their confidence was born from a place of experience of the person and character of God developed through years of intimacy, and definitely not in the absence of mistakes. So, if you ever desired a more intimate relationship with God, riddled with his mercies and grace, now you know what to do. And that's it for today. Thank you for joining in. Please like, share, and subscribe. It's just about school doodle, doodling out. I'll see you next Sabbath.